Hello and welcome back to Energy Turtle. First, we're discussing the Biden administration's newly unveiled plan to cut greenhouse gas emissions from the U.S. power sector. This plan is part of a broader effort to decarbonize the economy and combat climate change. The power industry is a significant target for emissions cuts, as it produces about a quarter of the country's greenhouse gases, primarily from the burning of coal and natural gas. The proposed plan will set greenhouse gas emission limits on both existing and new power plants. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, these limits should help the U.S. avoid around 617 million tons of carbon dioxide emissions between 2028 and 2042. The specifics are quite complex, but, in general, they could encourage the adoption of technologies like carbon capture and sequestration, CCS, low-emissions hydrogen, or renewable energy. For instance, large natural gas plants, both existing and new, will be expected to install CCS technology that removes 90% of their emissions by 2035. Alternatively, they could co-fire with 30% hydrogen by 2032 and 96% hydrogen by 2038. Existing coal plants scheduled to operate past 2040 would be required to install CCS technology starting in 2030. The EPA estimates that the power industry will need to spend over $10 billion to comply with the new rules. However, new subsidies available in the Inflation Reduction Act should help offset these costs. The EPA's analysis suggests that the climate and health benefits of the plan, valued at around $85 billion, far outweigh the costs. While the new proposal won't single-handedly solve climate change, it's a significant step in the right direction. White House climate advisor Ali Zaidi said the new proposal will keep the U.S. on track to achieve net zero emissions in the power sector by 2035. The EPA will open a 60-day comment period, likely to draw criticism from the power industry and its supporters. Previous attempts to cut power industry emissions have faced legal challenges, so it remains to be seen how this plan will fare. Next, we're examining the burgeoning energy and transport cooperation between Russia and Iran. These discussions come at a critical time as both countries navigate severe Western sanctions. Firstly, a bit of context. In the wake of the invasion of Ukraine, Russia has been exploring partnerships with nations outside the sanctioning sphere. Notably, the Russian Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak announced an intent to strengthen ties with Iran on oil and gas upstream projects, and even considering alternate currencies for transactions. In their recent meeting, Russia and Iran discussed 6 upstream oil projects. Iran signaled its interest in receiving 4 to 5 million metric tons of oil products. It's interesting to note, however, that few details on these oil swap agreements have been publicly revealed, raising questions about transparency in these dealings. Turning to gas cooperation, Russian state-owned gas giant Gazprom is considering a joint venture with Iran to develop 2 fields, potentially leading to the production of liquefied gas for global markets. But again, Gazprom's silence in response to requests for comment could be cause for concern regarding the specifics of these arrangements. Transportation is another critical area of cooperation, stimulated by current sanctions. Russia and Iran have agreed to develop a railway connection as part of the North-South transport corridor, reducing transit times significantly. However, despite these optimistic projections, the North-South corridor's success depends on a range of variables, including geopolitical stability and infrastructure reliability, which have been issues in the past. Currency diversification is also on the agenda. Novak noted that Russia and Iran conduct roughly 80% of transactions in rubles and rials, with consideration to use yuan. This tactic is a response to the sanctions and asset seizures they face, but it may not be a sustainable solution in the long run and might even trigger further financial scrutiny. While Russia and Iran's partnership can provide mutual benefits, the lack of transparency, ongoing political instability, and the broader geopolitical context cannot be ignored. These considerations are vital to understanding the potential impact and viability of their cooperation. And then, we're discussing Chevron and Exxon Mobil's recent moves in Australia to scale up carbon capture and storage, and invest in hydrogen projects. Chevron Corp and Exxon Mobil Corp, the 2 largest U.S. fossil fuel companies, are seeking Australia's support for their carbon capture and storage, CCS, and hydrogen projects. They're looking to increase investments in these areas to reduce the intensity of carbon emissions. Scaling up CCS projects and generating hydrogen from renewable energy are crucial for Australia, the world's largest exporter of liquefied natural gas, LNG. This is necessary for the country's transition to a low-carbon economy, even as it seeks to meet LNG demand from top buyers such as Japan and South Korea. Australia has set a target to cut carbon emissions by 43% by 2030 and to reach net zero by 2050. The country is home to the world's largest commercial CCS project, Gorgon, run by Chevron. However, this project has struggled to reach its full capacity. David Fallon, General Manager of Energy Transition at Chevron Australia, mentioned at the Australian Petroleum Production and Exploration Association conference that Chevron was prioritizing CCS investment in the United States due to favorable policy measures like tax credits. Following the lead of the United States and Britain, Australia announced its plans to scale up its offshore CCS capability. The CCS process involves capturing carbon dioxide generated from industrial activity, transporting it, and then storing it underground. Urtiza H. Sayed, president of ExxonMobil's low-carbon solutions in Asia-Pacific, also expressed the need for favorable policies to make long-term investments viable. Executives from Inpex Corp, Japan's biggest oil and natural gas explorer, and Australia's top independent gas producer Woodside Energy Group also advocated for policy certainty. Australia announced in its annual budget last week that it would invest $2 billion to scale up development of its green hydrogen industry. Blue hydrogen, produced from natural gas with carbon emissions removed via CCS, was suggested as an economically attractive option. Stay tuned for more updates on the world's transition towards cleaner and sustainable energy. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insights. Thanks for watching.